Hi, good morning. It's great and fantastic to be here. I really like to thank Greenwood High TEDx initiative for giving me an opportunity to speak here. Speaking is part of my job. I have to get this out of my mind first. Whenever I get a chance to speak, the audience is typically has hairstyles approaching mine. For the first time I see a crowd here, it's a huge challenge for me, right? So I'd like to start my talk with a question. I'm going to talk about entrepreneurship. By the way, that was me before I started entrepreneurship. So I'd like to start with a question. How many of you have aspirations to start a business of your own and be an entrepreneur? Good. There are a few hands. Very good. When I graduated from college a couple of decades ago, the words startup and entrepreneurship was not in the lexicon, right? We did not know what entrepreneurship was. I still can't pronounce it properly, right? It's a different word today. Today is a fantastic time to be an entrepreneur. We have a well-developed ecosystem, both in India and the rest of the world, where entrepreneurship is encouraged in cities like Bangalore and Mumbai and Delhi and some of the other major cities. We have all the 3 or 4 things that will help the entrepreneurs. We have regulatory support. We have well-developed infrastructure of venture capitalists, both domestic and foreign. We also have examples which we can follow. And last but not the least, now youngsters like you have more risk appetite than before. So it's a fantastic time to be an entrepreneur. The second thing is, before you decide to become an entrepreneur, you'll have to figure out what drives you to become an entrepreneur, to start a business. I know we all like to be rich and famous, but there has to be something beyond that. I've met a lot of people who have a drive to create employment, drive to uplift some of the younger children who are at risk, right? I met an entrepreneur who simply said, I want to plant 1 billion trees in this country, right? This is the kind of drive we need to have to be a successful entrepreneur. For me personally, after working for a couple of decades, both in this part of the world and the other part of the world, for me the driving vision was to build a product from India. I know we don't see too many made in Indias, and that was my vision, and we built that, and our product is deployed in a very wide fashion, both in this country and in other parts of the world too, right? So now let's jump into the presentation. Like anything, there is, with most things, there is good news and bad news. What would you like to hear first? Good news? Show of hands. Oh man, that was my answer. You guys stole the answer from me. Always get rid of the bad news first, right? Then the rest of the life will be simpler, right? The first bad news. Failure, right? 90% of the businesses fail within the first 12 months, right? It's a very sobering fact. We have to learn how to deal with failure. Failure is a process in business which will lead you to the next step of success. Failure is a process where we do market discovery, product fit, customer experiences, all those things. I have this picture. Does anybody know what this picture is? Sorry? One person. Thank you. Correct. There's a little bit more to it. In the Japanese culture, right? When a porcelain jar breaks, they don't throw it away. They use lacquer mixed with gold and rebuild the jar, and it will become more stronger, right? That's what failure is all about. When there's a failure, you'll always have to rebuild from that failure and become much stronger. Just to give an example, Narayan Murthy, must have heard, the founder of Infosys, did start a company before Infosys, ran it for a year, utter failure, not many people know about it, right? And then, based on those experiences and learnings, he built Infosys, which became a world-beating company, right? So this is the power of failure. That's why I said failure and success. And as you know, Apple reached a mythical $1 trillion market cap a couple of weeks ago. Steve Jobs built the first computer. Does anybody know the name? No, Lisa. Lisa was an utter failure. They shipped tens of thousands of these computers to landfill in the state of Utah, right? It was an utter failure. Based on those learnings, he built Macintosh and many other products, and it's a world-beating company, right? So always remember, failure is not a bad thing. Indweller. There is only way to do entrepreneurship, right? Jump in, right? There is no known path. No business school teaches you, no engineering school teaches you how to be an entrepreneur. Jump in, swim, learn to fly, and soar, right? That is the only way to do it. And by the way, that's how I did it after working for a couple of decades. One fine day I said, you know what, I wanted to build a product in India, and just jumped into, left my job, cushy job, and started my business, right? And failed utterly a couple of times before coming to this stage, right? Most of the entrepreneurs we hear about, right? Whether it is Gates or Jobs or our own famous entrepreneur, Dhirubhai Ambani, right? They all jumped in, right? Without thinking, and they built empires after that, right? Number 3, this is the most controversial one, right? We start businesses to make money, right? But trust me, you have to ignore the money, right? The reason is that the main reason a business exists is to deliver value to the customer, right? The value is what makes the customer happy, right? The value is what makes the customer do his things faster and better, right? Value is what makes the customer's processes cheaper, right? That is what we should do first, right? Money will always follow. Revenues, profits, margins, they all come later. So always deliver value to the end customer, right? And the second thing is, as we all know, capital is the oxygen for a business. Without capital, businesses suffer, right? We spend, including me, we spend enormous time chasing capital, making presentations to banks and VCs and whoever is ready to listen to us, right? That is the wrong thing to do. Always build a business, show the value, and capital over many, many centuries has always followed good ideas. There's only one reason for the capital to exist: they want returns. And the only way they get returns is to chase good ideas, right? So always build a product and deliver it, and the money will always follow you. The biggest example I can give is, you must sort of heard of this app called WhatsApp, right? It's free, right? Several years they're running it free because they want to deliver. They make you happy. They make you, be a better being or worst, depending on how you look at it, right? So they're doing that. But trust me, the company knows how to reap billions of dollars about this app. We're already seeing that, right? So that's the story, right? First build value, then the money will always follow. This is the most difficult one to deal with, right? Change. As the saying goes, the only thing constant in this universe is change, right? We have to learn to embrace change, right? We have to deal with it, right? If you don't, there is always a hungrier, smarter, well-funded guy down the street or in the next city or in the next country who will come and eat your lunch, right? So always you have to innovate, right, and be ahead of the curve, right? Otherwise, you'll be gone. I know you guys are a little young. There was this company called Nokia, right? During my times, we did not buy cell phones. We bought Nokia phones, right? It was that big. We have no idea how big they were. The brand value of that was amazing. And where are they today? They just vanished. They just vanished from our mindset, right? Because this company from California, right? This food company from California introduced the smartphone, right? And they destroyed many businesses. People who do not change become the dinosaurs of the world, right? So change, you have to embrace change and out-innovate and keep progressing. So whenever you want to start a business, right, you have to answer one fundamental question first. Any ideas what that is? I know that. So, okay, right. So, the one question you always have to answer is, why is the guy down the street or in the next city will not do a better job than me building this business, right? You have to answer that question. What is unique about me? What is unique about you who wants to start this business? Without that, you'll be always at a loss. Whenever you go raise money to a venture capitalist, which we do all the time, they always ask this question, why you? Why not that person, right? So we always have to understand what is that thing in you or your group which will stand out, right? In olden days, we had these forts which defended the empires, right? Around the fort there was this water body with some deadly animals in it. It's called a moat, I think, right? So you have to always understand what is your moat, right? Because otherwise, there's always that guy, well-funded, smart guy, who will come and eat your lunch, right? It's not a joke. It's serious. So the second thing is you need barriers, you need moats. By the way, the barriers can be many kinds, right? It can be tech. This guy spent 3 years, developed the tech, and it will be very difficult to duplicate the tech. This is called a secret sauce, right? The barriers can be funding. I raised so much money that nobody can touch me, right? Barriers can be geographic. I have this 1 acre land overlooking Bhaktha Lake, and I'm good, right? The barriers can be regulatory, right? The government of India suddenly says, I shall, stop import of all cell phones, and all cell phones should be manufactured in India. That's a regulatory barrier, right? So barriers are many, and you have to know your barriers. The next thing is about, in the same way, right, is openness, right? That's why there's a barrier under over there. Why we need openness? Openness because we need to form alliances, right? We need to develop our customers. We need to develop our developer community. We want to make sure that the customers who use our products make our product better and spread the word. So we got to have that openness. And the extreme example of this openness is open source, right? So always remember, you got to have barriers and also have to be open. So a lot of people, start a business because they say that, I don't like my boss, he's an idiot, he's a moron, I want to be my own boss. This is the farthest from the truth you can be, right? We always have a boss, believe me, right? We always have a boss, right? When you start a business, there are a lot of people, including me, who thought my boss is my board, the bank which gave the loan, or the venture capitalists who funded my company. They are not the bosses. The boss is always the customer, right? You keep the customer happy, like your dog. If there are dog lovers, you'll notice, right? You keep the customer happy. He is the only reason you exist. He's the only reason the business exists, right? Keep the customer happy, deliver value to him, and treat him like a boss. To give an example, if you must have heard of Amazon, right? They have a fanatic dedication to customer experience. They attend to customer complaints. That's one of the reasons they're successful in the grueling e-commerce market. Even today, if you guys don't know, if there is a problem with Amazon, you can send an email to bezos@amazon.com, and if you have a good complaint, it will be answered, right? They will make sure it gets answered. This fanatical dedication to customer experience, the real boss, will make you a success. Number 7, can you guys tell me what this is? Right. So, when you start a business, you always have to know the details, right? The details as to how your product works, as to how your product is constructed, and how the product is deployed, right? You cannot delegate this to anybody, right? You always have to know the details. And the details don't stop there, right? You have to figure out the legal stuff around it, the financial stuff, the regulatory stuff. All these things you have to know, and you have to know top to bottom. This is something you can never outsource to anybody. So as the saying goes, the devil is always in the details. So you've done all the last 7 things mentioned, and you're a thriving company, about a couple of 100 people, raised a lot of money, and you're standing there. Lot of companies fail, I've seen, to cross the chasm to grow from this small, medium company to a large, successful company. And that is the process through which you figure out how to scale, right? Scaling is not easy. Scaling primarily consists of two things, tech and people. The scaling of tech is actually easy, right? Through more people, more smart people, there are a lot of smart people in this world, more computers, more money, you can always scale tech. It is extremely hard to scale people, right? You hire the first 100 people, and you typically know the name or at least seen all your employees once, right? Which is great and good, but that will not work when the company has to grow to 1,000 people and 10,000 people, right? You got to have these processes, you have to spread the culture, you have to hire the right people, and scaling of people, right? Whether in terms of hiring, whether in terms of processes and systems, and more importantly, culture, right? Is extremely hard. You have to figure that out. You have to spend enormous time and resources to figure how to scale and grow. Again, also the growth and scale, right? It is one set of challenges to sell to the first 100 customers. It's a different set of challenges to sell to the 1,000 customers. It's a completely different ball game to sell to the million customers, right? So you have to figure out scale to go to the next level. The last one. This is one of the most underrated things, untaught things that, according to me, that is extremely important to build a successful business, right? The ability to sell, right? The ability to speak. When I was a kid, always used to see this sales people, right? Come and knock on the door and just sell this agarbattis or encyclopedias. You must have seen these people, right? I always used to say, pray to God, I do not want that job. I want to work in a big company doing fancy things, right? No, I do the same thing today, right? I go knock on company doors, sell my stuff, right? And that's what makes a business successful. So selling, speaking is extremely critical. Please learn it. Selling is one of the most, I don't know how to say this, humiliating things you'll experience, right? It's extremely difficult to sell. You have to talk to 10 people, 20 people before you make the sale, right? But selling also gives you that feeling that you made the kill, right? So selling is very important. And that's all I had. Just as a closing remark, there are a lot of people who come and ask me, why should I do entrepreneurship? By the way, I asked that question myself. Why go through this struggle, right? Entrepreneurship is a hard journey, and it's a very rewarding journey. But why, right? I believe there are three answers. One is, as humans, we crave for validation and recognition, right? So entrepreneurship is one of the best ways, I believe, to get validation, recognition from peers, friends, families, other people, right? Second thing, entrepreneurship is the force that drives the economy engine of a country, right? It is not the government, it's not the big industry houses, it's not the banks, all these small entrepreneurs, right? From the chaiwala down the road to the company which builds fancy tech, they are the ones who drive this economy. For this nation to become prosperous and to become a superpower, as one of the guys were telling, entrepreneurship is the key. The third thing is entrepreneurship. If you go through the journey of entrepreneurship, the difficulty of entrepreneurship, you'll realize that it changes you, right? It changes you. It will teach you who you really are, what drives you, and how to get there, right? If everybody in this world figure out who they are, what drives them, and have a way to get there, I think this whole world will be a far better place to live in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.